And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Tuesday, December 30th. We're almost done with 2025, almost ready to ring in 2026. And we're looking at, well, a warmer day today. In fact, National Weather Service does have winter weather advisories issued from the valley eastward. Actually, I figured they would. They just canceled it for the valley, but it is still in effect in areas of Minnesota. However, more than likely, that is going to be dropped as well, as temperatures currently are at or above the freezing mark. So it's kind of eliminating any icing conditions out there. So we'll see improving conditions over the next couple of hours for areas that did see some light icing. We do have an Arctic front that is about ready to move through the area later this afternoon, probably about 3 o'clock or so. You'll notice the winds will switch to the northwest, and we'll see a quick push of cold air coming in here. Could see a little bit of blowing snow, but I'm not expecting a whole lot. And then another clipper system comes our way tomorrow, with temperatures in the morning in the single digits and then dropping below zero throughout the day. And we'll pick up about a half inch of snow. Some spots could pick up to an inch, but I'm not expecting a lot. But whatever does fall, it's going to be blown around by northwest winds 10 to 25 tomorrow. So not as windy as the last two events, but we are looking at much colder weather to ring in the new year, with highs at the end of the week only in the single digits. So a nice break today, Bridgette, from the cold, but it's not going to last long, unfortunately. Back into the freezer as we head into Thursday and Friday. And I know we were talking the other day about the LRC, and once again, I did post our LRC calendar on our website if you want to check that out. The one thing that kind of popped out for January was the 7th through the 10th. And it's funny, Bridgette, because none of the models were picking up on this. And we have models that go out 10 to 14 days. And typically, once you get past 3 to 5 days, you take it with a grain of salt. Now the models are picking up on something that could be a significant storm between that 7th and 10th of January, which the LRC has had on the mark for about a month. So it'll be interesting to see what happens late next week, according to the LRC, and what kind of storm actually hits our area. So something that we've got our eye on.
And if we do pick that up, that will fall right over the Lake Region Roundup that's put on by NDSU Extension out in Devil Lake. That will be held next week, Wednesday and Thursday. In fact, Thursday morning, I am on a panel up there. So looking forward to hopefully that storm passing through after everyone is able to attend the Lake Region Roundup and get home. Currently, I am in the Gilby, North Dakota area, north of Larimore. Roads are now wet. They certainly were icy this morning, and you are seeing precipitation on the windshield right now. So we know that it's in the air. You can feel the dampness to it. As you said, when we see those temperatures start to drop later this afternoon, probably continue to see some icy conditions pick up. But it's been warm enough right now, it might make any snow that's in the ditches stick, so we don't have it blowing and drifting across the highways. Yeah,
that is good news, and thankfully we did see the temps rise. We're 34, 35 across much of the area right now. So again, like you said, Bridgette, the roadways that were icy earlier have now melted, and we're now looking at just wet conditions across much of the area. So that is good news. But again, between now and middle of next week, I'm really not seeing much in terms of any impactful weather. Although anytime you get a half inch, even an inch of snow and 25-mile-an-hour winds, you could have some travel difficulties, and we might see a little bit of that Wednesday, tomorrow. But I'm not looking for it to be a huge deal. And then we'll await what could be potential impactful storm around the 7th through the 10th. So, and even after that, according to the LRC. And if you could log onto our website, again, WDAYradionow.com, to find that article. And after that, there's just a bunch of clipper systems in Arctic air for much of the month of January. It's not until February and March where we really start to see the potential for more impactful storms come in here. But we've seen, even with these clipper systems, you get 3 inches of snow and 30, 40-mile-an-hour winds, that ends up being quite impactful. And I think we'll see at least one more of those during the month of January after that 7th through 10th storm.
and low visibility with those storms. We may not have a lot of snow, but certainly with the heavy wind, we will see low visibility happening quite often.
Right.
A big thank you to Progressive Ag Risk Management Specialists. They bring you our weather each day here on Weather and Ag in Focus, which is live from the Coral Laundromat studio. With winter weather as it is, you've probably got a lot of heavier rugs that are dirty, that are muddy, that are wet. Haul those things over to the Coral Laundromat. They have 80-pound capacity washers and dryers. They can make sure to get your things cleaned up and taken care of very quickly because, as we know, farming is dirty business. And if you are on the road like I am today, you can reach out to us on the JLA Insurance phone line. That number is 701-293-9000. Nate Thorsrud, he's a farmer himself as well as a crop insurance agent, and he understands what all of the upcoming changes may mean to your farm for 2026. Give him a call. You might be watching us on our live stream today. That is with Lighthouse Commodities. They make sure that we are visible on Facebook, YouTube, Acres TV, and we can catch your emails. Our inboxes are powered by Superior Grain Equipment. Protect your farm's future with Superior Grain Storage, Drying, and Handling Solutions. SuperiorBins.com is their web address. Dean can be emailed weather at flagfamily.com, and I am ag@flagfamily.com. So really appreciate all the times that you guys drop us questions, maybe clarifications. For example, last week I made mention of the indemnity fund for grain dealers in North Dakota. And Stu Letcher, who is the executive director of the North Dakota Grain Dealers, reached out and said, hey, I can probably provide a little more clarification for that. So Stu's going to join us tomorrow, and we are going to have that discussion with him about the indemnity fund, what it means for grain, but also in the realm of livestock. We've got some high cattle prices out there, and who's protecting the producer if something should happen to one of those sale barns out in the state of North Dakota. Today, we have a great opportunity to visit with a farmer from Lankin, North Dakota. That would be Dale Zahradka. And Dale farms up in the Lankin region. That's in the northeast quadrant of North Dakota. He also serves on the Ag Country Farm Credit Services Board of Directors. So I look forward to hearing from him, from his perspective on the board, what's happening with Ag Country and what he sees with other farmers in the region. And Dale has some other interesting discussion we want to have as well with him. So it's going to be a great, fun-filled day here to listen, learn, and so much more. When it comes to what's happening as far as some of our headline highlights, well, I don't know if I want to call this a highlight, Dean, but I will tell you this much. Water hemp, which has always been a problem child, especially in the last 5 years across North Dakota, maybe even 10. We have had a great tool when it comes to combating water hemp in fields, particularly soybeans. And that product is called glufosinate, sold under the brand name of Liberty. Minnesota has now had a confirmed instance of a farm where they're finding resistance of water hemp to glufosinate. Not great news for our producers because we realize the importance of being able to use multiple modes of action in the field, and glufosinate is one that we have relied on. This is a finding in Dodge County, Minnesota, and what the researchers have done is they wanted to study how much water hemp would survive with applications of glufosinate. And this work was done in conjunction with University of Minnesota as well as Minnesota Soybean and Research and Promotion Council. What they found is that water hemp that was indeed suspected to be resistant needs about 3 times more glufosinate than the sensitive populations for effective control. More than half the plants in the population survived, and they also found that more than 80% of the plants in the population survived when treated with 3 times the recommended field dosage. So, unfortunate news, but it does come at a time where, as farmers planning for our soybean fields in the summer of 2026, we can be thinking ahead about what needs to be done and how to control a weed like water hemp. Up next, we have the livestock market update from the American Ag Network, and when we return, we'll be joined by Dale Zahradka of Lankin, North Dakota. Are you thinking about getting away for the winter? Well, we are going to have a way for you to do that. Starting on Monday. Dean, have you heard about this? About it where we're sending people?
Our Vegas getaway. And who doesn't love
Yeah,
Vegas? Who doesn't? You don't have to gamble to have fun down there. That's just a fun city in
right.
general.
Absolutely. So you can go to WDAYradionow.com and register to win starting on Monday in the 7 a.m., 9 o'clock, 4 o'clock hours. We're going to be doing this where people get a chance to register. Our sponsors for this Vegas getaway include all and Kingpins. And I bet there's more than just yes. Those details, I bet, are on their way.
Yeah, no,
We will be joined.
that's a
Oh,
great,
go ahead, Dean.
and that's
Go
going to
ahead.
be a great, that's going to be a great giveaway. And yeah, log on to our website and sign up for that. It's and like you said, get away to some hopefully warmer weather than what we'll be having at that time.
At least for a little while. Well, our guest today, I think every so often just to get away too, and that is Dale Zahradka. He is from Lincoln, North Dakota. Dale, how are you today?
Hey, Bridgette, I'm doing good. And yourself?
Doing great, thank you. Well, um, first of all, let's start with this. You farm up at Lincoln. Tell us a little bit about your operation.
So, yep, we farm on at Lincoln, right along the edge of the Red River Valley. I always say I'm up on the hill, standing on a rock, surrounded by alkali, looking at all the nice land in the valley. But we have kind of some of that transitional land that seems to work good. Lots of corn and some soybeans and edibles and malt barley. We grow a lot of malt barley for Anheuser-Busch, which I know you know. And yeah, it was a good year. Corn yields are great. I'm here at the dryer drying some commodities right now for making sure they're dry when they get moved. So enjoying this nice weather for today and listening to Dean. It sounds like it's going to change. So I think maybe I should be your first one that ends up in Las Vegas.
I like your planning. I really do, Dale. That's a good idea.
Did we lose Bridgette? We just lost Bridgette. Okay. Well, oh, is she back? Okay. All right, Dale, tell us a little bit about your story. You already said, okay, so you're farming up around the Lincoln area. Hey, speaking of so I saw you wearing the sweatshirt. So if anybody's watching our live stream, that's a beautiful hoodie, by the way. I love it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
absolutely love that. How much barley do you raise for Budweiser?
So it's my son-in-law and daughter, and then his brother farm alongside us. And I'd say between the three of us, we probably have typically about 1,500 acres of barley for Anheuser-Busch. And we always, hope it's going to make quality and grade. And it's been kind of a mainstay of our farm for 15, 20 years now. So.
And just curious, obviously, I mean that's a good contractor to have. How does Budweiser say, okay, we want you to raise barley. Yours is top notch. Do they choose you? Do you kind of submit to them? Hey, we've got some of the best in the area. How does that work with a big corporation like that?
You're right, and it is a corporation, so they're really looking for quality. They're like a lot of these that are going out and making sure that you have the quality that they want. I always say, it's not a petri dish, though. We can't grow this crop to the absolute specifications that they ask for every year. But there's a few things you learn, and I'm getting up there in age, but every year I still learn some more. But we maybe have a little bit of edge that my daughter Nikki she's the North American agronomy manager for Anheuser-Busch, so she buys all the rice and the hops and the barley for Anheuser-Busch within our states. So I always tell her that I said, if this barley doesn't make great, it's going to be a really awkward Christmas for them grandkids. And every year it's right on that edge sometimes, but we seem to, one way or the other, it works out for us. And it's been a great crop to kind of keep these sour soils and kind of our rotations going on it. So
That's great. That's great.
Well, I apologize for my connection there. I'm not far south of you at Gilby and ran into a little trouble.
Yeah.
But um, I don't think you got a chance to hear me ask. Tell me how you got involved with the Ag Country Farm Credit Services Board.
Sure. That's one of those little things in life that, opportunities that come that you didn't realize it, but it'll be 25 years now that I've been on the board. So in 2020, I asked a lot of questions with my loan officer at Farm Credit about, financials and, all these year-end ratios and that. And so he said, gee, you really have an interest in this. You should maybe run for the board. And so I did, and really was fortunate to get on the board. And at the time, for all the listeners, so it was a Grand Forks was the association, Grand Forks Association. And then, probably in, oh man, um, 2015 probably, we merged with Ag Country, which was Fargo based, and then we merged with United Farm Credit, which was parts of Wisconsin and Minnesota. And then in the last 24 months have did a collaboration with Farm Credit Services of America, which is, most of the Midwestern states, and then Frontier, which is Western Kansas. So uh, we've I've got to witness going from in 2000, I think, Egg Country or Farm Credit of Grand Forks probably had a loan volume of about $320 million that we borrowed out. And now it's with the collaboration, it's about $75 billion. And so,
Wow.
when you think of kind of all of the consolidation in agriculture and the banks and everything, the farm credit system, which is a, government sponsored enterprise, in 1918, it was set out to make sure that there was monies for agriculture in good times and in bad. And that's kind of really well, I'll say our bread and butter. That's what we do is lend to agriculture and be there when others kind of aren't. And so that it's been a great trip. I go off the board now in July. It will be the end of my the kind of time on the board, and so it's been a wonderful experience. I say I always bring back more than I probably given to them that I bring back to our own operation.
That's a great point. When you serve on those types of things, it's not just the knowledge that you can share with that organization. It's the things that can help impact your operation as well. And some of those impacts that happen on a farm, well, that's what we're going to talk about next with Dale. We're going to take a chance to hear the news, maybe give Dale a moment to check his grain dryer. And then when we return, we'll continue our conversation with Dale Zahradka of Lankin, North Dakota. We'll be back. You know, it's never too early to mark your calendar for great events in the 2026. And Bell Bank, they have Ag Views Live coming up. It's an outstanding event held in Fargo every year, and that brings together great minds like Lynn Paulson, who's been a longtime Ag loan officer at Bell Bank, and Dr. David Cole, Professor Emeritus of the University of Virginia. So are you interested in hearing what they have to say for 2026? You can subscribe to Bell Bank Ag Views and their quarterly Ag newsletter. Go check it out at their bellbank.ag website. Our guest today is Dale Zahradka. He's of Lincoln, North Dakota. So, Dale, as a guy involved in a very busy family farm, you were kind enough to reach out to me because there are some things that have changed in your farm in the last 7 years that you wanted to visit about. And can we start there? Would you like to share that story with us?
Sure, Bridgette. When we talked here a couple of months ago about, opening up, I've talked a little bit about this with some church groups and some other ag media, but I lost my son Nathan to suicide in 2017, and I didn't lose him. We all lost him. My family lost him, and our community lost him to suicide. And he farmed alongside me for quite a few years. He was 29 years old when this had happened. He was married, had a young son, and it was it hit us by such surprise that I think we couldn't understand how this could happen and hit us, so close to home. And I think of we just talked about ag country, and we do a lot of training on kind of how to understand other people's thoughts and how to, mutually work together for a similar response. And I worked alongside my son for all those years, and I knew he wasn't in a good place. I knew he had issues. He wasn't into drugs or alcohol, but he had some kind of emotional issues that really we could see constantly in that. And so I've been reaching out to others, and I've had others reach out to me and want to talk about kind of what are those signs and what do we see, and what did we see as a family looking back that maybe others can see looking ahead. And so I always say, if I can help change one person's outcome, or make one person think a little bit about, hey, I'm seeing that in my spouse or my father or my son, and go, don't just let it be, because it happened to us, I say, so slowly. That change, both the physical change, the mental change, that it kind of slipped away one little tiny bit at a time. And I say we normalized that. We said, well, that's just Nathan. That's just Nathan. And every day maybe it got a little tiny bit worse, and we didn't see until looking backwards how much it had changed.
And Dale, what were some of those signs, if you don't mind going over some of those?
Yeah, no, I do. I told Bridgette, I'd rather talk about markets and all this other stuff, fun stuff that's going on. But this
Sure.
is part of what we all live. It happens everywhere, but it's definitely in agriculture, and it's definitely around the holidays. But so some of the signs were really a changing in his body. He lost a lot of weight. We've seen that he maybe kind of didn't take care of himself. He always liked to be shaven, and pretty soon he had a beard. And, one day his glasses were broken, and he just put tape on his glasses, I remember. And I'm like, you got to get your glasses fixed. And he's like, yeah, okay, maybe, maybe not. But, and a very, very different personality every time you would see him. One day he just was so loving and so kind, and loved his mother and his sisters. And then the next day, he would get so mad at little tiny things that at least for some of us looking at him weren't a very big situation, but to him they really were. But a
Sure.
lot of the physical things, and then looking back, talking with a lot of his friends that in those last 3 4 months, they would say, well, you know, I'd call him and he didn't answer, but I thought he was okay. I thought he was talking to somebody else, or I thought somebody else was there, and but they all said that so they kind of stopped that communication with the outside world. And it was a lot of agriculture. It was big decisions on buying land and fertilizer and new baby and a wife and a kind of that uncertainty in life that just kind of ate him up.
Sure, because there were all those things that were kind of compounding each other, and you could see the physical changes probably as the first thing that stood out. And looking back, Dale, if you had recognized those signs and said something to him about them, do you think Nathan would have also recognized it in himself and felt like he should reach out for some help?
I did, we seen that that it was that far along that hey, we need to talk with somebody and get some help. But he had been on a little bit of medication, but he didn't like how it made him feel. And uh,
Yeah.
looking back, we should have pushed harder. It's pretty easy to say if they're confrontational with someone. For me, I just kind of turn away and go the other way because I don't want to be involved in it. When I
Right.
think at some point we got to put our foot down and say we have to deal with this, and we have to deal with this together, and we have to deal with it now. It isn't something that we can put off until we have more time, or that maybe the farm allows, but we have to, because that's the most important thing, right? I mean, I would give up anything I have to change that one thing in my life, and you can't. Once it's too late, you can't change that. And that really gets to me.
You said something there that was really great, and you said we have to talk about this and we have to handle this together because Nathan likely felt very alone, but you were willing, your wife, his wife, you didn't want to make anybody go it alone. You were, as a family, you wanted to be helpful, and I think so many others want that too, but don't know how to voice it to the person in need.
uh,
With
we
you, go ahead,
Go
Dale.
ahead. No, I think that's just it. Everybody has somebody around them that loves them enough that will have that conversation, will take them to a clinic or a doctor or do those things. You kind of hear that, well, I'm alone and there is nobody. There's always somebody. And you look at society these days, there's people will do almost anything to help the neighbor. So I say you've heard it a lot, but it's stopping the pickups on the road and just saying hi, or pulling in at Christmas time. I like to catch some walleye, and I give them a bag of walleye, and it isn't much, but it kind of creates that communication that you wouldn't have otherwise. And so you have to communicate. You got to think about it. You have to really think about it and say, you know don't let it just kind of pass through you or pass by you, and say, hey, can I change this? Is there anything I can say in this situation that could change it? Or if you think about it afterwards, call somebody back and say, you kind of said a couple things there. Is there anything you want to talk about? And we all need a little probing sometimes to kind of show our feelings. We're men, and we live in the Midwest, so we're not made that way to do that stuff. But I think for the most part, we all would if we knew it would help somehow.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. And after this has happened, you've mentioned that you have had an opportunity to talk to some church groups. Have there been groups that have been there for you and for your wife and the rest of your family too, Dale?
You know, you that's a great question. That's a great question. Uh, we've had some really really good uh, people in our lives, and we've had some others that maybe weren't. Maybe I'll say didn't understand it to the point that they've lost someone. And I'm not saying even to suicide. Just I mean, we've all had those tragedies in our lives that change you forever. But uh, the church groups really are good because they want to know, because they want to sit down with somebody and understand what are they going through, and maybe not what the church thinks about that or what the education thinks about that, but what are your own little personal things that you're dealing with. So
You know, as there's a couple of things here. One is I want to make sure to ask you, Dale. I think I know what your bottom line message is to people, and it might be, especially as we get into this dreary time of the year, January, February, to communicate with others around you. And would that be accurate, or is there some other things you want to make sure that listeners today hear and see and look for in those around them?
yeah, I think those two things, the communication is a big thing, but inevitably, if they don't want to communicate, that's 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 a direction that they're going to go. But on the other hand, is uh, the people around them understanding or seeing those changes, because there were real changes, but again, they happen so slow that you don't see them as real true changes. And I think for me, looking back, that's what I wish somebody could have pinched me and said, look for those changes, look for the changes in Nathan. And when they're that drastic, even though they've happened slowly over a long period, that it's not normal and it's not who they are or were.
That's a great point.
And
Watch for the changes.
I've heard that from others saying, yeah, that, you know, we've lost our son or our father or our friend, and it was kind of the same thing, just that uh, distancing themselves from others and pushing back. So
Dale, I can't say thank you enough for you calling and asking for the opportunity to share your story today, because you're exactly right. There's probably someone listening today that needed to hear this. So you've been wonderful to visit with. Thank you so much.
thanks, Bridget. I appreciate the time and the opportunity, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. I hope if you have issues, please reach out somewhere. There's lots and lots and lots of resources everywhere around you, and hospitals and phone lines that have great therapists, and just anything you can do, but don't take it on yourself. Make sure you reach out, because somebody will help. I
That
promise.
and Dale, that's spot on. I lost a cousin to suicide, and if he would have sorry, if he would have reached out to one of us, it's reach out. Like you said, just reach out to somebody. There's always somebody there to listen. Always, no doubt.
Yes, absolutely.
No doubt. Dale, thank you so much. Have a great Christmas. Have a great Christmas. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks everybody.
you
Take
bet. Well,
care.
you too. And when we come back, we're going to recap the weather, and we're going to give you a colder looking forecast. But how long will it last? We'll have those details and touch on a couple of ag topics when we come back. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. And it's a mild day, all considering what we've been through. Temperatures outside are in the low to mid 30s across the area. That's relatively mild. We've had the wind switch to the northwest, so we're going to start to see falling temperatures as we head into the latter part of the afternoon here, as we've seen the warmest part of the day, and temperatures will slide off. And as Arctic air starts to move in, as it does, we'll see a few flurries, maybe a few light snow showers over the next 24 hours. But I'll tell you what, over the next 5 to 7 days, I'm not seeing a whole lot of precip around here. Good news, bad news. I mean, if you're a sledder and you want some fresh powder, sorry. There's just not a lot in the forecast. And we've got a couple of clipper systems here and there that give a dusting to a couple tenths of an inch here and there, but no organized storms heading our way here over the next week. Now, if you subscribe to Gary's LRC at weather2020.com, or you can log on to our website, I put up the calendar through March of when some of the peak times that we are expecting storms. And one of those coming in later next week. It looks like the latter half of next week, as from the first cycle, it did produce quite a bit of rainfall in our area. And we're looking at that to come back into the area as snow late next week. The intensity of it's still a little in question, but it was funny, Bridgette. I've had a few emails saying, what am I seeing on our long-term models? And the models weren't showing anything. I mean, not even a hint of any type of storm late next week. And lo and behold, this morning's model run is now starting to show what the LRC has been predicting for a while, is a potential for a decent storm in the latter part of next week. So you'll want to keep up to date on the forecast for that January 7th through 10th time frame if you're doing any traveling in the northern or central plains. Just giving everybody a heads up. But until then, pretty quiet weather, just an Arctic air mass moving in here for the next couple of days after today. A few snow showers here and there, maybe some light blowing snow with it. And then temperatures finally moderate as we head into next week, back into the 20s. But about 2-3 really cold days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, heading our way, Bridgette. So we're going to ring in the new year on a cold note. Not record-breaking. I mean, we've seen much colder weather to start off January, but still a little shock to the system after today's one warm day.
Well, speaking of shock to the system, I've got a listener comment for you from Kevin at Fergus Falls. He actually sent this yesterday during the show, but you had to step out for a little bit. And he said, tell Dean the wedding tent, the fake palm trees, and the darter rain gauge that he won was set up to measure snow, but it went somewhere to the southeast after all the wind over the weekend. So much for planning an outdoor Polynesian wedding this weekend. But he saved you a Mai Tai, Dean, and the rum went fast. So take care. That's Kevin's comment for you.
Well, so Kevin lost his rain gauge in the wind.
He may have.
Well,
it's hard to tell. You may want to reach out to us.
Yeah, Kevin, if you did, shoot me an email, weather@flagfamily.com. I think we could probably take care of you. But you'll have to include the Mai Tai.
Yeah, we're almost out of rain gauges, and then we're going to be switching to a new giveaway from Darter Plastics. Can't wait to introduce that to all of you.
I just had one of those put on my desk this morning. Those are nice.
We're going to share that very shortly.
Yes.
Additionally, and to add on to our discussion with Dale Zahradka here just earlier in our hour, most of us have heard that Governor Armstrong announced there's a special session of state legislature happening in the new year to talk about $199 million in rural health care funding here in the state of North Dakota. I took the time to reach out to a couple legislators this morning at my husband's reminder that, hey, is any of that money going to mental health and resources and care for our rural areas? So take that into consideration. Not all of us will reach out to ask for something for ourselves, but we may want to reach out to ask that for others. And that may be worth your time to go ahead and drop that message to a state legislator and let them know that you're thinking that's a priority in this special session upcoming.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today's Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank you, and as Bridgette wants to thank you as well for joining us. But we're not done yet. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next.